Cameron's already commenting.
Welcome to the Cash Flow to Go show. We are live downtown London, Ontario. As you can see, we're at 440 Wellington Street, brand new location of my brokerage, The Agency. And last night we just had our grand opening party. You might have seen on my Instagram. Let's go check it out. Come on, guys. So this was like an old lawyer's office that was dated completely. We were able to keep the 1900 brick in here. And we got all modernized with all beautiful furniture and everything like that. And this would be the start point location for future Wyville limo tours and any coaching sessions and breakout sessions that Matt and I will have. So let's take a look here. We got a reception desk up front and beautiful furniture. So, hey, they cleaned it up because we were out here drinking multiple bottles of champagne last night. So you might see some of that back here. All the cans of Anderson's ales that we drank in our little lounge room here.
Smells like beer in here.
Smells like beer. And you know what? Anderson still hasn't sponsored our show. There's like 2 bathrooms over there. Let's head this way. Back in. This is great for clients to bring them here. We're right downtown, so we have parking if you're going to the hockey games and such.
And
hey guys, so we're just suffering from a little bit of bad connection, so we might end up just doing the show out here, I think.
do we want to try one more time, or oh, we got a bad connection again? We're still connected. We're still connected. Okay. We're still live.
All right.
Okay, cool.
How many people in?
We were up to 10.
10.
All right, cool. Yeah, we can just
bring that computer out to see if we're connected still.
Yeah.
Anyways, here's our space, guys, and
if you guys want to get set up, like I can start just bringing
so
lights and stuff over.
Get your comments ready and your questions, guys.
Yeah. Here. We can just throw it there.
Let's
and
go
sit
right
right there.
Okay.
I think probably either throw it here or right here. Just sit.
Yeah, that'll work. Bad connection, but we are live. We should be live.
Okay, cool. Well, we appreciate everyone hanging in there, and feel free to jump into the comment section and start asking your questions, and we'll get right to it.
Mm-hmm. Still just says bad connection, but we are apparently live.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself there?
Not sort of. It's not streaming.
We can tether.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Here, I'm gonna give you guys a personal hotspot.
okay.
Just pull up your Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, it's working. Sorry about that, guys. Really appreciate you sticking in there with us. We're just going to quickly get reset up here. Got a better internet connection, so we're good to go. So yeah, so start jumping in, giving us your real estate questions. But this week, me and Jeff were kind of busy. We did a field trip down to Windsor. Checked out Windsor, so we actually jumped on live for a few minutes on Jeff's channel.
My YouTube channel.
While we were in Windsor. So Windsor was definitely an interesting market. Very similar to London in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Otherwise, another cool thing that just the Graham Stephan episode of the podcast, the On Fire podcast, just came out. So in that podcast, we talked to Graham Stephan, myself, and Kellen. And Graham, if you guys aren't familiar, became a millionaire at age 26 and became a real estate agent at age 18 right out of high school. So yeah.
So if you're not subscribed on the podcast, you can head over there, subscribe.
Yeah.
Are you guys drinking out of that?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, our trip to LA is coming up really quickly. We're going to be leaving for LA next Wednesday on the 15th, so pretty pumped for that. But yeah, in the meantime, let's talk to Paul. So Paul, you've been in real estate for quite a while now, right?
Yeah, about 6 or 7 years, which is not a long time, but it's when things start to gain momentum. And
yeah.
it's
Paul in frame?
He is in the shot, yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Perfect.
You can lean in a bit though, yeah, that'd be good.
Awesome. So yeah, so you first started off, your first project was a flip, right?
Actually my first project was a townhouse.
Yeah,
so I started in a townhouse, turned it into a 4 or 5 bedroom townhome, and rented out 4 bedrooms and went to college for 2 years. And then after that I did a flip in East London, pretty close to Fanshawe College.
Yeah. They
were bought for $115 and sold for $185 a year later. And at that time didn't have my license or anything, but I'm a contractor, so did all the work myself.
Yeah.
And then that was able to roll that into another duplex. So purchased a duplex, did the same thing, kind of lived in it, improved it. And then, so just my last purchase was 2 properties, each with 5 bedrooms.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my portfolio right now. I'm kind of looking to get more into the flips and use my realtor license in different ways.
Yeah, and so I think it's interesting that you're a real estate investor, then became a real estate agent several years later, because it's something a lot of real estate investors at one point or another ask themselves, right? Like, should I become a real estate agent? Because often, you start to learn a lot about the market, you become an expert, and so it seems like a natural pivot. How did you decide that you wanted to become a real estate agent?
There's an interesting change in legislation for becoming a real estate agent in April 2016, I believe, and it's where there's now a requirement after this date that you have to complete 5 exams to get your license or begin
Ontario.
For Ontario, yeah. And so at that point I was kind of thinking about it, and that made me just jump in basically the day before the legislation changed.
I like
that. So it actually worked out really well, because right when I finished my 3 courses, I purchased a property and used my license for that basically the same month. So the timing of it was over a year and a bit completing the courses and things, but the timing of it just worked out really well, and I'm looking to kind of diversify my businesses and my jobs, and it just worked out well. Yeah.
Can you talk about you being a contractor and buying your houses versus some of the people who might not be, like your advantages you think you had above and beyond brand new investors that might be watching?
Right. Well, it all comes down to confidence, and we have confidence in the product, and you understand what you're buying and understand the basic level of construction, how houses are built, and kind of what you're getting into. It gives you a lot more confidence as a buyer.
So, and I'd say if you're not a Paul who can just walk into a house and see what needs to be done, you need to know a Paul to make that phone call pretty much to a Paul to see what properties you should be buying or any problems that you could foresee, because you can see everything. You're fixing something over there 2 minutes ago, and we were like, oh, this is broken.
So yeah, if you're not a contractor, if you don't have contractor skills, definitely having a contractor on your real estate team is really important, particularly if you're going to be tackling properties that are either flips or potential burr properties, right? Because you want to be able to renovate it to a high standard, but do it in an efficient manner.
Exactly.
So, Paul's helped me out on a couple projects in the past, and so like one of the things I really like to do is often like, retrofit kitchens or try and use used appliances or use dishwashers. Yeah. Because at the same time, you can get essentially the exact same quality of life for a lot less money, and that really reflects well on a burr strategy type property, or a flip for that matter.
Absolutely, and you really find the lift, the appreciation in what you put in the kitchens and the bathrooms. That's kind of base knowledge.
Most people ask, how do I get better value in my house or my rental units, and it's kitchens and baths.
Doing the things that are value that aren't super expensive. So you don't go out and buy like $1,000 vanity. Maybe you get $1,000 vanity used for $250
You're good at that.
on Kijiji or something like that.
Paul had done a couple of my rentals as well, and you just tell him to go get dishwashers or whatever, and you would grind and find those on Kijiji, and they look great, and you're not afraid to clean them up or anything, and
exactly.
They still work. So
it takes a bit more effort, but at the end of the day, you end up with a decent product at a decent price.
I think that's pretty rare for contractors, the way that you do that. You would have to really coach a contractor
to have the full skill set. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of just naturally gravitated towards that because I like kind of solving the problems and not wasting your guys' time.
Yeah,
right? So
that's key. And then we liked when you could just do the task like kitchen, you know?
Yeah.
Not have to
Let's go.
because you're a real estate investor, you know what we're thinking, unlike maybe a different contractor who just thinks we're modeling a kitchen or something.
Yeah, absolutely, because like rental grade versus like flip grade can often be very different and really impact your bottom line. So it's really awesome when you can find that contractor that understands what you're looking for when you're like, I'm kind of looking for, you know, just a rental grade finish. I just want something sturdy that's going to last, that looks decent.
Yeah, it comes down to trust too a lot of the time.
Yeah,
which is hard to find in the construction renovation industry.
Yeah.
And it's you got to be able to have that certain amount of trust both ways. Kind of. Yeah. So that's why it's great working with investors, because I can trust that you guys will make it would pay and all that
be
stuff.
unemotional.
Be unemotional.
Yeah.
So I'll just queue up the audience. Like if you guys have questions for Paul as well throughout the program tonight, make sure you guys ask them towards Paul.
Yeah, and so far if you've been enjoying this, definitely smash that like button. If you're not already subscribed, definitely subscribe. And feel free to share this on social media, because we're trying to hit, I think 32 concurrent would be our peak, so that'd be really awesome. I know we kind of got off to a bumpy start there, so if you guys can share it to help us pick up momentum, that'd be super awesome.
Yeah, because I'm tethering this, so it's on my cell phone bill right
now.
Oh no! So let's do some shares, you know.
Let's make it count. Let's make that $70.
I need all that data for LA.
Sure. I need to update my plan.
When is that? When are you
We're
guys
off
going?
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday?
Yeah.
That's
Wednesday
awesome.
morning.
Yeah, so perfect timing because it just snowed all last night.
It's cold.
So wake
It's
up to
cold.
cold, snow, all that shit, and then be flying to sunny LA. But perfect
That
timing.
real estate investor kind of dream. You got all these properties in Canada, but you kind of
When it gets cold, you go south.
Yeah, exactly.
So where are we saying that? Anyone in the chat?
Yeah, so the chat's starting to warm up here. We've got a few questions coming in. We've got 13 viewers right now, 7 likes.
Share, please.
People liking the conversation, just kind of the investor conversation that's going on. So I'm sure you guys can speak at length throughout the night about that. But let's go to the first question if you guys are ready.
Awesome.
So any wholesalers in London, Ontario? I'm looking to get a multifamily.
So yeah, like theoretically, almost any real estate investor or agent you meet technically is a potential source for a private deal. As far as like dedicated wholesalers, myself and Jeff and 2 other partners, Kellen and Dylan, recently have been spending a lot of time focusing on trying to create a funnel of those private deals, because to be good at wholesaling, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. You need to put in the effort. So we've slowly been getting people to knock on doors, hand out flyers, do all that great stuff. So we definitely are starting to have some wholesale deals trickle in. So actually, just earlier this week, we hooked up one of my business partners, Mitt, with a potential 4-property lump sum purchase. So that was a long time in the making, trying to get that deal together.
It's an interesting area right off Adelaide there, by pretty close to the river. It's an interesting area, but yeah, I was talking to Dylan about that.
Yeah, and then so there was also a 4-plex we ended up getting. Right now we just have a handshake agreement on it, and so often with these wholesale deals, it often takes a long time from kind of the inception, the initial understanding, to the actual execution on it. But yeah, if you're interested in finding out more about the wholesale deals that myself and Jeff potentially have, hit up. Jeff's got like a email list. Probably the best way to find that is just like look up Jeff Weibel Real Estate on Facebook.
Facebook, Instagram. Send me a DM. I'll put you in contact. I'll put you on the mailing list as well, and we'll hook you up.
Awesome. Cool. What do you guys think about investing in Stratford, Ontario?
I'm pretty sure there's like no vacancies there, so that's good. But then it's probably pretty hard to purchase up there as well because of that. I think properties just like anything multifamily is going to go pretty quickly there, from what I understand. I do have some contacts up there, or the St. Mary's at least area, and so like I don't overly know, but I do know like the Stratford festivals there all summer, and people from all over the world come to be in the plays and stuff and such like that. So Airbnb opportunities.
Yeah.
You got a lot of short-term rentals you could do as well for like potential celebrities that are coming in to play Macbeth for 6 months or something like that. So I think you could really take advantage of that if you can find the right real estate. I don't know what real estate's there really. Like I've been to Stratford socially, but never as a real estate investor overly. So
yeah, like there's definitely a lot of beautiful old historic homes. I spent a couple of years working in Stratford. I think it's a really nice community, and it's got some interesting potential long-term upside, right? I think as it Laurentian or University of Waterloo opened up a little satellite campus in Stratford, so that's always interesting to see the post-secondary institutions opening up in these smaller communities. And then in addition to that, when originally they were putting in planning the GO train from Toronto to Kitchener-Waterloo, there was rumors that they might actually extend all the way to Stratford. I don't think that was confirmed, but if someone knows, jump in the comment section down below, because it'd be really interesting to hear. But like, again, anytime you can get potential access to like that mass rapid transit, that's a huge wild card. So I think long-term Stratford has some interesting potential, but again, it's not a market that we necessarily know inside and out. I think we've had a couple people come though from Stratford, Shakespeare area, and come down to one or two of the bigger pocket meetups.
Yeah, and please, if you're up there, come down to London, and maybe we'll come up to you and check out.
Yeah, like literally the reason we went and checked out Windsor, Ontario was because Matt French reached out to us and said, "Hey, I'm from Windsor, Ontario. I think there's some interesting opportunities here. What do you guys think?" And it was actually funny enough that the three neighborhoods Matt was showing us around in Windsor when we went down was Sandwichville, Ford City, and Walkerville. And anyways, the next day, like we were driving around, I was like, I kind of really like this Ford City. It's got like kind of a derelict commercial corridor that reminds me of the old East Village a few years ago. And then the next day, CBC came out with an article saying how Ford City was the new up-and-coming neighborhood in Windsor. So yeah, so if anyone knows anything about Stratford, or if anyone wants to try and twist our arms to make us do a road trip up there, we'd be easily convinced.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a higher, you're going to be paying more for properties there, but you'll have good appreciation with that as well. So if you're getting into that market, obviously you want to be able to purchase, get a large mortgage, and that kind of thing. But in the end, you kind of, in real estate, it usually balances out. When you pay more, you kind of earn a bit more, and hopefully you get almost that same ratio in that market.
Yeah, and like I also know, you know, Stratford, a lot of people I knew that lived in Stratford kind of used it as a bedroom community. You know, they commute to Kitchener-Waterloo. It's really not that far of a drive. So I think there's a lot of different plays there to be had. So what else are we saying in the comments?
We got a nice renovation question. Aside from painting, how would you increase value in a kitchen or bathroom while remaining budget conscious?
Budget conscious, I'll start with this one. I really like backsplashes. If you can do a backsplash for fairly inexpensive, kind of just taking out the old tile that's there. The way to do it cheaply is if you don't install a backer and can install it on the existing plaster or whatever's there. If you're paying $1 a square foot for tile and you can do it yourself, then that's a good win. Countertops also.
I love
really
countertops. Like
yeah.
if you have decent cabinets already in place, just switching out the countertops, like it would probably, like, for, you know, just a nice piece that's maybe 8 feet long, if you got just a linear kitchen, like you're only gonna be out like $200 plus a little bit for install.
And you can do it yourself because they're all stocked at the major depot stores like Home Depot, or you go pick one up, a straight piece, and you just cut it to length with a circular saw. If you put tape across the cap and countertop and cut on that, there will be less chipping, and you can basically cut it with your circular saw, so you don't need a whole lot of extra tools.
And another really easy one for kitchens, again, if you're keeping the cabinets, just switch out like the boxes, the cabinets, just switch out the hardware, right? Like it's so easy. You find these older kitchens, they're still nice and boxy, which like almost looks like it could be modern, but they got old wood handles or something. You switch that out for some stainless steel looking thing, and it can make a huge difference. And again, you're talking maybe between $1 and $4 per handle, just kind of depending on the finish and where you're finding them.
And a tip for when you go do this stuff is always take the part with you. If you're redoing a kitchen or you have any little part, take it with you, because some of these things, they vary by ½ an inch, but they kind of look the same. So just to get the same hole spacing and get a handle that fits, take one sample with you and even show it to the people at a Home Depot, and they'll find it for you.
Because it's really frustrating making multiple trips to Home Depot in the same day. Like, I know we've all done it. Like, I don't know, probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 trips would be my tops in one day. And like, by the 5th or 6th one, you just hate the world so much.
Wasted all my time.
Right? All my time's driving. Another great kitchen tip, I think, is adding a dishwasher. If you don't already have a dishwasher, it really doesn't have to cost that much, particularly if you're buying a used dishwasher. One of the best ways to find used dishwashers is look on Kijiji or Craigslist and find someone that's upgrading to stainless steel. So they have a really nice white one. if you get the serial number and the make and model, you can just look it up on like Appliance 411 and find out the age.
Yeah.
And usually if it's under 10 years, it's gonna last you long enough if they've been treating it well. So
Yeah, exactly. Look for around 150 bucks would be
Yeah.
considered a good deal for a stainless steel appliance. And yeah, having a good discussion too, asking the right questions, right? How long have you had it? Are there any issues that you know of? And that kind of thing. But yeah, and it's also a quite easy hookup when you install it, because you usually install next to a sink, right?
Yeah.
So your hot water plumbing is right there. So you just tie into the hot water plumbing. You can do this with a PEX fitting. It's a $10 fitting. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's easier to do yourself if you're looking to do that. And then the drain is also right there as well. So
Yeah.
instead of plumbing a drain to a new area of the house, like you have to do for a washer dryer maybe, it's a relatively easy install that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's relatively simple electric, depending on the dishwasher. It's either plug in or it's just, you know, like you're not dealing with the same thing like with say laundry, where you're going to need larger voltage and that takes up more room on your panel and all that. So yeah, so I think those are kind of my favorite kitchen tips.
Cool. We've actually got a bunch of questions coming in about mortgages, all sorts of mortgages. So as mortgage rates seem to be going up, do you guys recommend variable or fixed?
Like we've talked about it a few times, statistically speaking, you know, it seems like you're always better off going variable. That being said, I certainly understand why people would be drawn towards fixed. I think it really comes down to personal preference. At the end of the day, the difference in the interest shouldn't make that big of a difference in your overall return on investment. I think a lot of people get caught up in trying to really focus on getting the absolute best interest rate, but you probably actually make more money getting the absolute best tenant in your rental property than getting the best interest rate. So I think that's just some food for thought. But right now, I kind of like to have a balanced amount, right? So about half of mine are variable, about half are fixed. It just feels like kind of a nice arbitrage for myself. What do you think, Paul?
Interesting. Yeah, I'm pretty well positioned.
The property you just bought, would you go?
So I went with a variable rate just so I had a little bit of flexibility. It's a little bit easier if I want to sell the property, then I can get out of it with fewer charges, fewer penalties. But right now, about half and half. I have half of my mortgages fixed, which I locked in about 2 or 3 years ago at 2.59%. So this is the first time I've seen my fixed rate go lower than the variable rate, because right now the variable rate is about 2.8 or so, I think around there. So it's kind of an interesting change. I think you might win if you did a 5-year fixed right now, because the rates will probably go up maybe another % in the next year or so. But yeah, and then we'll kind of stabilize there. I don't think they'll get too crazy.
I think it's highly unlikely that we really get too disjointed or unpaired from the US rate. So we've already seen Canada kind of moving toward like building a bit of a buffer there. So yeah, I think at most, in my personal opinion, we'd see 1% tops in the future. So Jeff, what's your portfolio?
I'm all fixed right now, so I think when you have more and more, then you can start maybe playing with the variable. But as a beginner investor, I really liked it fixed because certainty. You can really like identify your cash flow. You can just see your numbers nice and easy. You know what all your bills are on your spreadsheet, and that was good for me at first. It doesn't mean I won't try variable in the future, but definitely as a novice, when I was new, fixed was the way I went, because I could just see the bills and I knew what it would be every month. So
yeah, my very first purchase, again, I went fixed just because I kind of wanted that sleep at night factor.
Spencer's back in the comments. He's agreeing with all of you guys.
Thanks, Spencer, for jumping in.
We had some people asking about what kind of mortgage rates you guys are getting. He said he just did a refinance and got quoted 3.15. What do you guys want to share? I know you kind of got into the percentages there.
I just got, I think it's 2.85 is my variable. So I think it was prime minus 0.75 or 0.8. But yeah, that's what I'm getting right now.
I got one coming up, so it'll be.
Yeah, and honestly, and it's just funny because interest rates used to matter so much to me back in the day, and like now I really don't care. I honestly couldn't even tell you what the last few were. They were somewhere between 2.7 and 3.5.
What's your story at the lawyers when you're like, oh yeah, what's my interest rate?
Yeah. It honestly, it's just one of those things where you know, if 1% makes or breaks the deal, I probably don't want that deal anyways. But I completely understand why at the start people get really focused on interest rates, because there's also a lot of literature out there about interest rates, how to negotiate your interest. Maybe you can buy it down, all kinds of different like ways you can tweak and play with it. And there's nothing wrong with getting deep into the minutia like that, but I don't think that you need to like stay up at night worrying whether you should go variable, fixed, or in whether you negotiate the absolute best interest rate. Because I talked about this on my one video, how to impress a banker. But long term, if you're in real estate and you're planning to build up a large portfolio, I think it's more important to be building that relationship than getting the absolute best interest rate every time.
We've had mortgage brokers come out and talk to us just socially or at some of the networking events, and they're like, what do you need? You need the best rate? I need the best rate. And we're like, no, we need you to get the deal done.
Yeah, we want the fastest yes or no.
Yeah, like we're buying complicated deals. It's not about a couple points. It's not a residential house. You know, we're not just that family that wants like a little bit lower, cheaper of a deal. We need you to broker the deal.
But if you are curious about what kind of rates are out there, like there's all kinds of websites that like just list all the different rates, right? And while you can't take that as exact gospel, it's a great jumping off point. As well, like Canadian Money Forum, there's a huge section there about real estate, a sub-forum, and they talk all the time about what interest rates they're getting. And what's really nice there is people are actually saying like what city they're in, you know, what branch they're dealing with, or what exact bank they're dealing with. So that's really useful, just because it can vary even just across the province, let alone across the country. So.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, money is the cheapest it's ever been for like a long time. And I'll take that all day, every day, and tie that up as much as I can.
Hi, give me $500,000 at 3%.
Yeah, so
nobody would do that.
Yeah, if you get $1 million of debt in real estate and you pay it off over the next 25 years amortized, you're going to pay off that $1 million. It's going to almost double or more in value and appreciation. You're going to have $2 million in 25 years. And if you can do that with a couple times for $1 million, and it starts to add up to something significant.
Yeah, there's definitely an inflationary environment. There's a lot of value in having debt, and that's why a lot of us focus on trying to access as much leverage as possible so we can control as large of an asset base as possible so we can get the largest return possible.
Cool. Last question about mortgages, at least for right now. Could you guys offer any advice in terms of who to get your mortgage from? So it sounds like this is a question from Pedal1214. I'm going to close my 4th investment property, and it's not easy getting approved from a lender, especially when I'm not a full-time employee.
So again, I think that's where getting that relationship's really important, right? If there's a banker that is really going to try and work with you. Personally, as a real estate investor, I've talked about this a couple times, but I found a lot more personal success dealing with people at the branch level versus a mortgage broker. And simply because for a mortgage broker, you're asking them to take on a lot more effort and hassle when they could probably just deal with, and again, this is unless they're specialized. Some mortgage brokers specialize with real estate investors, and that's going to be a whole different ball game. But I've had more success finding people at the branch level that specialize with real estate investors that are focused on building that long-term relationship. So, you know, myself, just the way through happenstance it's worked out, it's been CIBC and Bank of Nova Scotia are the ones that I've built a relationship with, but everyone's different, and it's really just about, I honestly think, the relationship more than the specific bank itself.
Is that more for commercial, Matt, for dealing with the bank kind of thing?
So like definitely commercial, the relationship's the most biggest, like the absolute most important part. It's so relationship oriented, and then otherwise it's just kind of your presentation and the actual numbers. But even for like smaller stuff, right? Like, you know, there's times that I've found, you know, someone's gone to a mortgage broker and they're trying to get like the improvements plus mortgage, and they're getting a lot of friction from their mortgage broker, where at the branch level it seems to just process a lot faster. And that's just anecdotal evidence. I don't have statistics to back that up or anything, but that's been my personal experience.
Sounds like it's less emotion too if you're just dealing right with the bank, like the mortgage broker.
Well, it's one less layer, right? So like that's one more person that needs one more set of documents. There's one more potential like broken chain in the telephone game, right? So I think that's where it's at. But I know like you use a mortgage broker and you have success with that.
Yeah, right? I've been working with the same mortgage broker, and kind of have an understanding of putting the deal together, and he kind of makes it happen kind of deal. So it's, Yeah, I've dealt with the bank a little bit for plus improvements, but yeah, I've done all my mortgages through broker.
Yeah, and you've mainly used a mortgage broker too, right, Jeff?
You're correct. Yeah.
So yeah, so like everyone's experience is going to be different. It's really going to just depend on that relationship.
And he's stuck right now at 4 deals, pretty much.
Yeah.
Or at least he's got told no from one person.
Yeah, and so like I've talked about this in my videos before, but just because you get no from one person at one bank, don't take that as gospel. Like keep asking and ask the question slightly different until you start getting maybes or yeses. And you know, once you start getting up around 4 or 5 properties, it's definitely going to get more difficult to get additional mortgages. But that's where buying with partners can become a great advantage, and or you can consider moving and starting to buy in a corporation. So that's another opportunity there too.
Awesome. Okay, questions are queuing up. So we've got one for Jeff. How much money do you need to get started in real estate?
As an agent,
I assume because it's directed to you.
Yeah.
So.
So Ontario.
Yep.
Ontario, you have to start taking all your courses, get ready to open up your pocketbook immediately. I think there's 5, 6 courses now. Each are $400 to $500.
I was gonna say it's probably pretty fresh and Paul's
So I've just done 3 courses. Yeah. The third one was 2 courses, so they did it twice.
$800 one. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was maybe.
So call it like
I thought it was $1,000 altogether with that for that third course. So it was probably 1,000 plus 600 plus. They're about $600 a course. So you're looking at about 5 times, we'll say 6, so about $3,000 just for
there.
5 courses.
Okay, that's over time. Then you gotta you might have to buy study guides, and those can cost more money. You know, maybe you need tutoring.
Study guides are $25 each. So the passive study guides are.
This is Ontario advice at the moment.
Yeah, Ontario. Yeah.
And then once you're all done that, and you're allowed to apply to your board, then eventually you pay even more money, just under $2,000 or something like that. So you're at, call it like $7,000, and then you have to join a brokerage, which what's the brokerage fees? No. Every brokerage will be different. It all varies. So this is where you want to do your homework on which brokerage you want to join. There's gonna be different splits. So, but then they're gonna start telling you need this, you need that. You might need to buy business cards, this and this. I always will give you advice: don't do that immediately. Just work on your personal branding to start. But it is going to cost you around $7,000 to $8,000 before you can do anything. And then when you go find, let's say you make a sale on day 1 or day 2, like if you were that good, that money probably isn't coming for another at least 30 days. So because after closing and whenever the check actually comes from the lawyer's office, so you're gonna have to really plan. And how long does it take to do the courses? Like a good 5-6 months now, right? Now with the new people,
at least
have to do at least 5 in a row or something like that, right? And then they can be an agent.
So you're probably a good year away from when you register to when you actually complete the course.
So my advice on that, and I've talked about it on my YouTube channel, is start branding yourself while you're doing that. Don't just do the year of courses and then go, all right, time to do real estate, because it's going to be tough. And even if you did make a sale day 1, you're not getting paid for a little bit longer. And then is it enough? Is it covering that $8,000 right away? Maybe, maybe not. But maybe it's only $2,000. And then the bills are still coming, and then you start going a bit more into line of credit debt or going into your money. So
yeah, and so I think that's huge, right? Just having a large buffer or savings buffer for when you're going to take the dive in, particularly if you're trying to go in full time into real estate. As a realtor.
Yeah, but it makes you hungry and you're getting into the sales game.
100%.
So
it's
these
like
things really make you hungry.
The power of broke made me, in my first year, work so hard, because I was seeing, and I'll do a video on my channel about this. Oh my goodness, like the bills are adding up. Like every morning I need to go to work. I need to do something. I need to post something. I need to talk real estate. But you gotta be careful. You don't want to sound like old Gil from The Simpsons. I'm really hoping to get the deal today. So, because then your clients will smell your desperation immediately and be like, Matt, are you gonna buy this? Are you gonna buy this? Come on, great
property. I showed you 3 houses. Which one do you want?
This one, I get a good commission on this one. Sign here. Can't say that.
Yeah, that's the best place to come from. Sales is a place of you're kind of doing it because you want to, because you want to provide value. yeah, I'm not big on the pressure sales kind of environment.
In long term, you're going to build better relationships that way. Then I relate it to used car salesman. You want to sell the person one bad car, he's going to drive off the lot and hate you forever, right? But if you sell him a good car, they're coming back to you, right? So, or if you're like, you don't want to buy that car, it's not good. What? Like, you know, same with the house, right? So.
Cool. I think you guys were almost going to answer this question, so I'll just ask it now. I was wondering if you can speak a bit on the timeline estimate for putting in an offer to closing.
Sure. That's going to vary on every single deal, but basically we'll write the offer. There's something called the irrevocability, and that's the time that when you offer, you cannot retract that offer back. And if they accept, then that deal is either based on the conditions, it's either firm, or if we have conditions, it's conditional. There's also things they can counter, and then they give us time to think about what we're going to do with the offer. I mean, that's how it kind of goes back and forth. And then to complicate it, other people can offer at the same time while it's going back and forth. So you might get into multiple offer situations. But so that it usually is going to take about a day to get a deal done to a day and a half. I've been like Monday and getting it done Friday night because it's gone back and forth throughout the entire week on a more stale property. But so then if it is firm or we're conditional and then we've satisfied the conditions, which is usually probably within the week, hopefully, and we've removed them, most closings are roughly 15 to 30 days away. So I think maybe that question sparked from like, when am I going to get paid kind of thing. Probably if you write an offer on the 1st of the month, you're probably not seeing that money until at least most likely 45 days later, because even if you close on the 30th of that month, it's probably that 15 days.
Another
because like,
2 weeks.
I've waited a month and a half and I've got it within like days. So it's all lawyers and how quickly they do the processing and send the check to the office. So.
And like just speaking from personal experience on when I purchased properties, I think the absolute fastest closing date I've had from when we went firm, when there's no more conditions outstanding, to closing, I think was about 20 days. And the longest I think I've gone is approximately 120 days from going firm to the actual date of closing where I got the keys. So it really is open. It's whatever you kind of design it to be. The only thing is you don't want to have too short of a close period, because your lawyer's going to need time to do the title search, and there's some other basic things that they're going to need to do just in order to be comfortable or confident and proceeding and giving you the best advice and helping you navigate that purchase. So.
Yeah, and that's something you can negotiate as well with the seller to make your offer seem more attractive. Is saying, hey, do you want a quick close? Are you paying? You're carrying this property and you want a quick close to get out, or maybe they're living in it and they don't want to be rushed moving out. It's going to depend on their situation.
Yeah, and that's huge. Honestly, a lot of people when they're negotiating on real estate, they end up only ever thinking about the price, right? But there's all sorts of other abstracts, qualitative factors that you can trade back and forth that may add value. So yeah.
Cool. I'm not sure how much you'll be able to help with this one, but maybe we can quickly answer it. It's from Roberto. I want to familiarize myself with how taxes work and the tax relevant to real estate in the United States. Where should I start?
So I don't know a lot about U.S. Real estate taxes, but so if you were in Canada, what you would do is you literally just look up our Income Tax Act, and there's a whole section where you can just read through verbatim exactly what it states in regards to what the laws are for real estate investing. And I assume in the U.S. there'd also, you have your tax code. You would just look through the tax code and find the section relevant to real estate. So in Canada, we're talking about a T776. That's going to be the form in the section you're going to look up. And it's just, you can honestly even go into Service Canada or like the CRA place and CRA office, and you can actually get like a physical pamphlet on it, or you can just download a PDF from the CRA website. And if you literally read it cover to cover, you'll understand how to do real estate taxes, essentially. The only thing you wouldn't be familiar with is case law and judgments, but you'd understand the guiding principles.
Yeah, and educational material. I just listened to a podcast from Breakthrough Real Estate. It's that's one of the few Canadian real estate podcasts that are public and not charged for. And they had a CPA on there. So there's some tax tips within there, some interesting new things that may apply to you if you have a corporation. And so yeah, just kind of absorbing material or information like that, having discussions with CPAs, getting specialists on your teams kind of thing.
And so for Canadians, if you're interested in learning more about taxes in general, but particularly real estate taxes, there's an amazing blogger, CPA out of Toronto, Canada, named the Blunt Bean Counter. And he has fantastic resources, like very in-depth analysis and explanations, frequently on the wages versus dividends, as well as discussing just the actual real estate implications, as well as like implications towards owning 100,000 in US real estate. So all kinds of fantastic stuff there. And again, I'm sure that if you scrape the internet, you can find similar CPAs in the US doing similar services. So.
What's our count?
We're sitting at 20 people watching right now,
Nice.
13 likes.
Thanks. And
so.
if you guys haven't smashed that like button, please smash that like button. I mean, like if you shared it like 12 times right now, we'd hit our peak concurrence. So I'm just saying that'd be kind of cool. But yeah.
Who's in the chat right now?
We've got a few familiar faces. I mean, we said Stefan
Thank you for all the
had a
people.
question the other day. Spencer's in here.
always
Roberto, I've
show
seen him
up.
a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a few more queued up. You guys want to keep going?
Yeah, let's keep going.
We've got a question from Robert. How can I know if a contractor is legit, that he's not going to steal from me? And should I find one before or after I find a property I like?
I like just starting with your last question first. It's never too early to start building relationships and start looking for people. So I would definitely be actively looking, because there's nothing worse than closing on property and having a plan, but having no one there to execute that plan. It can be really frustrating.
Yeah, and you just build the connection. You say, hey, this is what I'm getting into, this is what I'm looking for. And as a contractor, I love hearing that a couple months in advance. I don't like hearing, hey, I have this week that I want taken care of, and I want it done cheaply and all right now. And so if it's, I'm doing this in a couple months, and then I can say, hey, yeah, I'll have space within these couple weeks, or your contractor would be able to schedule a little bit better. Kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I'll talk. We have a network here in London, real estate investors, and we meet up all the time. And these are the people that we would ask, hey, what contractor do you use? And then that's going to be like your referral base.
Yeah, referrals are so
to make
huge.
sure that the guy's good or not. You're not, so if you're just alone in your investing career, you're just kind of like, oh, I hope Bob, the renovator's good. But when you have a community of other real estate investors and you've seen their finished products at their kitchens and their bathrooms and whatever, it's pretty easy to get the referral there if the guy's available, right? But
And honestly, I think it's really important to trust your intuition and your gut. There's a lot of red flags that a lot of people, just because they just want to get it done, or they don't want to have to go through the hassle of finding a new contractor, they'll put up with a lot of things that you clearly shouldn't. So one of the first obvious things is constantly being asked to forward money for a project. That's a bad sign, particularly if that wasn't pre-discussed beforehand. So if the deal was you're going to give $5,000 10 days into the job, and then you're going to pay the balance of $5,000 upon completion of the job, and you're at day 15, and now the contractor's saying, hey, you need to give me $3,000 or I can't finish the job.
There's horror stories of like mom and pop people that are out money because contractors just took it, right? Don't you say sometimes they're grabbing that money to pay for the last job, and they're always behind on a job.
Yeah,
so
and same with like if they were supposed to start on your job site the first of the month and they're starting on the 15th, again, like that's a bad sign. Like that shows bad planning. Everyone can have
shit happens though.
Yeah.
Like weather and
but at the same time, like it's a sign, right? That like it's a red flag you should be aware of. Particularly if they haven't been communicating well with you. I think a lot of the problems come down to communication.
Yeah, it's just like human nature then. If
Yeah,
they're just
human
communicating,
nature,
then great. If you can't get a hold of them, then that's a problem. Right?
Yeah, and I think one thing a lot of real estate investors at the start get caught up in is really worrying about the per hour cost and not thinking about the per project cost. So, it's great to pay that guy $12 or $15 an hour cash, but if he's going to actually take 100% longer than the guy that's charging $25, you're probably actually better off with a $25 an hour guy. At first, it's really hard to get out of that mentality, and I completely understand why people fall into that trap, but just food for thought.
Well, and like the public will always probably ask the contractor, what day are you going to be done? And you put the contractor on the spot. You have to say a date that like may or may not even happen. Something can happen during the project that causes that date to push, and then the public could get really mad at the contractor. So like like you guys have a property right now. Obviously, it was the permit issue, but I mean, like it's sitting there, so you might have to really. It's not as like corporate 9 to 5 contracting. Like, nope, he said this date, this should be done. The invoice should be here on this date. Like, it's kind of a wishy-washy kind of.
Yeah, but if they're not communicating well with you, like that's a huge.
No, the communication, yeah. Exactly. But I mean, like, don't be. You're gonna have to be variable versus fixed with your contractor, I think. So, the communication for sure, but just don't be like you said the 15th and like something happens. You have to be flexible. So like you thought you're gonna get tenants for the first of the month, he might not be ready, right? So
yeah, it's good if you're hearing your bad news from the contractor because that means he's not hiding stuff, kind of thing. Like with a lot of relationships, you just kind of gotta ask questions and kind of be listening to what they're actually saying, and yeah, it's like finding your tenants as well. You kind of ask questions. They may not be totally related questions, but through their answers, you discover how they do business, who they are.
Right. Yeah. So like, kind of thing. If the last, like if this contractor's talking about their last clients and what a pain in the ass they were, and the client before that was a pain in the ass, then client before that was an asshole. It's one of those things. If everyone you meet in life is an asshole, there's a good chance that you're actually the asshole.
Awesome. Okay, we got a question from 1337 Macau. Hey guys, is there a reason why the inventory is low in Oldies Village these days, and when do you predict that we'll start seeing more OEV properties for sale?
Yeah, so the inventory definitely seems lower. I think it's just because the demand's increasing, to be honest. I think it's also a lot of the properties right now are either just recently been fixed up or in the process of being fixed up. So again, I think that creates like a shortage in inventory. And outside of that, I think there's just a lot of interesting projects on the horizon. So a lot of people kind of want to wait and see, what happens with the Kellogg's project, what happens with the casino project, what happens with the bus rapid transit, what happens with Lily's Corner. And there's just a lot of interesting developments going on. So I think a lot of people that maybe otherwise might sell are going to try and hold on for another year, another 16 months, just in the hopes that they can see further appreciation, because in the last year we've really seen a lot of appreciation. I think a lot of people in the area, whether right, wrong, or misinformed, are really hoping that they're going to continue to see the same level of appreciation. So I think they're just holding on.
Yeah, I think you'll see them obviously popping back up in the spring. Those are beautiful homes, so they don't want to list right now.
Yeah, it's just the winter. It's too cold. So, it's too cold.
Like at the same time, like the winter's the best time to buy. Like this is my favorite time of the year. Now that the snow has flown, like this is the best time to be making offers.
But they're not listening.
Negotiate.
Yeah, not as much listening.
So if you
maybe
go knock on their doors, right? Maybe you'll just coach somebody to sell who didn't want to sell because you have the best offers.
And at the same time, if they are listing this time of year, like it often means that they're motivated by something outside of just money.
Yes.
Yeah, so they maybe got a transfer, or it's an estate sale, or whatever the case is, and that can tell you a lot about the property. So
right on. Okay, we're in the 45-minute mark. Awesome. Do we have a hard stop for today?
I do have to go at one point. It is on my tether.
Okay. Yeah, that's
but
true.
it might go back to the Wi-Fi. But,
sure.
And we're getting...
what time do you have to go?
Around 6:30ish.
All right.
Okay, so we got...
So keep your questions coming in for Jeff. We got another 15 minutes of his presence here. We got a question here. Want to know about the pros and cons about bank repo properties.
So as far as like a bank repo property, really, technically it's like almost any other property. The only thing is, in like Ontario, it's going to come with some additional schedules when you make an offer on it. And so that's really those schedules are there just to really absolve the bank from really any sort of responsibility. So, you're kind of going in with a bank repo, you're almost always buying it as is, where is, how is type condition. And so what that means is just they're taking no responsibility, they're making no guarantees. What's going to happen with a bank repo property if it's currently tenanted? If those tenants pay last month's deposit, the bank's probably not going to forward that to you when you close on it, so you're going to have to be out of pocket on that. So you just kind of want to factor in that a little bit when you're going to buy that bank repo property. Again, though, if a couple grand in last month's deposit makes or breaks the deal, I would argue it's probably not a deal in the first place, guys. But I think that, to me, the only other thing is banks are often a lot more like inflexible. So they're not like, they don't really give a shit about your cover letter. They don't really,
and stuff.
you can't really, there's no emotion there.
And I've seen where offered a price and then 3 weeks later they took that price. So like they have some kind of a chart.
Formula,
You assume that they're like, we're not taking this till this date and we're not taking this till this date. And so you gotta be careful with that. Usually they're priced pretty well, so you got a lot of competition. They want big deposits usually that are with the offers sometimes. So you have to be prepared to be out of pocket for a month almost.
Well, yeah, and some bank repo properties, like you may not even be able to get into the building if it's in rough shape.
Yeah.
So again, like having to buy kind of sight unseen or only from the outside, that can really impact kind of who and how you're going to approach a bank purchase. As well, if you're really trying to get that bank repo property, the key is clean conditions as well as like hitting their price points. So if you want to stand out, going firm is the fastest way, right? We bought a bank repo this year, and that's how we got their attention, was just to literally go in, I think, right at asking, cash, no questions asked.
And the other realtor who's listing is not really, he can't be helpful. He's not helpful. He's just as much in the dark as you are. He's literally just a middleman that passes the piece of paper over to the bank or the lawyer or whatever. So you can't get anything out of him. And even if he put in his own offer, it's not necessarily, oh, he's going to get it because he's double ending it, because the bank is the bank, right?
Yeah.
Or if it's power of sale, it's the lawyers. So.
Cool. We've got a bunch of questions from the National Acquirer. He's an investor from Alberta. It sounds like he wants to connect with you, Jeff, so maybe check your inbox for that.
Awesome.
Jeff, were you an investor before becoming a realtor? And do you find being a realtor has helped with your investing?
So I don't know how much you know about me, but I do have a property in Calgary, and I have good real estate buddies out there. So yes, please message me and I'll put you in good touch with them. And I was an investor in 2012, and I didn't become a realtor till end of 15. So I was an investor for like a good 4 years, I think it was, with the before becoming a realtor. And it was probably similar to your kind of story. Like, well, at first I thought, oh, why don't I just become a realtor and then save this commission thing?
Those darn realtors make so much in commission.
Realtor is way more work than just being a real estate investor. So, but you know, if you, like a guy like Matt Pichet in Kitchener, he's really not doing a lot of residential real estate or even some client stuff, but he does a lot for himself because he's a flipper, right? So he can save on that all the time.
Yeah.
So.
And you'll be your easiest client or customer at being a realtor. Doing your own paperwork and stuff is, it's, once you get to know the process, it's fairly easy to do. And most of the work of being a realtor is having that customer relationship and kind of guiding people through that process. So yeah, it definitely helps being an investor and a realtor. But
versus like Graham did it the other way around in LA. Graham was a realtor and then became an investor after he kind of like saw it. We kind of just saw it from the outside and then became realtors.
And so like the only real or there's only really a couple downsides that I can see as far as why a real estate investor may not want to become a real estate agent. If you're constantly doing a lot of private deals or you're making a lot of offers, there's going to be some more disclosures involved, and sometimes less sophisticated sellers or less sophisticated agents on the other side might make an assumption that because you're an agent, you're trying to pull one over on them, or like it might just like spook the deal or kind of get them jittery a bit more. So that's one consideration as well. Just like it's sometimes nicer to not have to follow all the same rules and regulations that a realtor may have to when they're putting an offer in on a property on the MLS or realtor.ca.
Yeah, it's a profession. It's another job. You're becoming specialized within that field.
And we talked about the money it costs to begin with.
Yeah.
And then so you put yourself in debt a bit to start. There's people that have been doing this for so many years and they're no longer active, but they keep their license, right? I don't think that's the junior approach, but like the senior guys can do that, right? And they maybe they just do their own deals or just keep it to do friends and family every once in a while. But some options on to either to be a realtor or realtor and real estate investor.
Yeah, like I think on Venn diagram, a lot of the skill sets overlap, so it definitely can make sense.
For sales, if you want to get into sales, which is a critical skill, then
and like I found success just dealing with the investors right away, because they just want a deal, and they don't care that you have a better sign on the lawn or you hand out the better pieces of paper at an open house, which is a lot of realtors will go do that right away because that's what they're told to do, right? But
Yeah.
there's investors, they buy 5 a year. So if you're a smart investor, then you can be that person's realtor, and you guys kind of work as a team versus like so transactional. So, which is what most real estate can be, especially when you're brand new, because you don't have like 20 years of clients and they're not moving 5 times throughout the 20 years, and they just call you up out of the blue to sell their mansion, right? So.
Right on. He also had a follow-up question. He wants to know what your number one tip is for negotiating. I guess across the panel.
What is it? Don't meet in the middle. Don't split the difference. So like it depends. You think it's easy ones when your clients are like, oh, just go in for asking, and they're let's go a bit above, and you're like, this is too easy. Like, what's going on here? I better negotiate something, right? So maybe you can get something thrown in the house or something like that. But I don't know how to teach negotiations. It just kind of like happens. You kind of like every deal is different. I'm not gonna talk about this, but I was negotiating over Christmas ornaments for some reason on a house the other day, so I just got the deal done. That came up,
I think one of my biggest tips, I think this is my biggest tip for negotiation, is just know your enemy, know who you're negotiating against, so understand what motivates them, right? A lot of people naturally default and assume that money's the sole motivator, but it may not be. This house may have been in their family for 80 years. They may be 3rd generation of owning this house. They may take a lot of pride in the ownership. And whether that pride shows through the maintenance they kept on it, or maybe it still became kind of, there's a lot of deferred maintenance, but they still have pride of ownership in their own sense. And so you could come in there, but if you're the hot shot that they think is going to flip the property or turn it into a boarding house, they may just never sell to you, even if you're 10% or 20% higher than the next person that they fell in love with that person's story because they're a young couple that's going to roll up their sleeves and do the work themselves, and they're going to stay there they plan to stay there for 80 years, right? So if you understand what the other side's motivations are, it's a lot easier to tailor your offer to it. And so I think that just instantly reduces the amount of negotiation that you're actually doing, right? Like, you should have a couple key factors that you're really focused on. So like, maybe for you it is money, or maybe it's closing date, or maybe it's a vacant possession. Whatever's going to make you execute as well as possible on your real estate investment, that's all you should be focused on, and you should be willing to give a lot of the other stuff away because it doesn't really matter.
And you kind of do that by having a conversation. It's kind of like if you're taking a girl out, you want to be talking, and you don't go right to that hard point of what that dollar amount is, or
what sort of girls are you taking?
It's a process, right?
Yeah.
But it's a discussion that you have, and it's not straight to like, if your bottom line is you want the property for $100,000, you don't just go, oh well, I'm gonna get this for $100,000, and then you kind of close the negotiation. It's a discussion of kind of talking to the person, seeing what they're after, kind of feeling out if they're willing to offer on your point, not getting to that, being in an amicable state before you go to the hard questions in the hard place kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, every offer, I'm usually calling the agent before I send it in, and to kind of, he'll give some stuff away sometimes too, right? He'll tell you what's important in this deal because he wants it kind of close too. Maybe it's a closing date, maybe it's you can't have something in the yard or the house or whatever, but he gives it away, and then you can kind of tailor your offer that way, which is exactly what you guys are talking about.
Yeah. And then so for like a more actionable thing that you can also focus on when negotiating, I can make sense to make a list, right? Like, make a list of kind of the things you can trade with them for, right? Yeah, you collect that list, that information, that data, and then you can slowly, you bring up those problems, again, depending on the ebb and flow of the conversation. As Paul said, like, it's often a lot nicer if you can, or Jeff was mentioning it too, like, get them on the phone and start discussing before you start putting things on paper. Because when you're discussing, you can kind of hear the nuances of their speech patterns, where if you're just only on paper, something that seems really cold and calculating on paper may not seem that bad once it's explained through a human voice.
Yeah, like, just to get in a very lowball offer emailed to somebody, they're immediately going to say no. But if you've already kind of had this conversation and then it shows up, it's a lot it's just emotion. Negotiation is emotion, so like that comes in cold, right?
Yeah.
They're never gonna go for that. But if you've already had the conversation, or there's a cover letter or something
Love
like that.
cover letters.
So what I'm getting at, it's all emotion. Real estate is so much emotion. So like the cover letter, what it does is kind of explains why we're offering this way. And if it was just ridiculous of an offer, but it's a ridiculous offer with the cover letter, it makes some sense to the seller now. And they're like, oh yeah, I do have knob and tube, or oh yeah, this has been out of date or out of code, right? Because all they see is a number, then they're like, what? My property's worth this, to their agent, and then you just play that game for 2 days, right? So.
Awesome. I know we're getting close to when Jeff needs to leave. Do you want to do one more question and then call it that?
We'll do one more.
Sure. Okay, so this question's from Raymond Tang. You wanted to say hi? He said, what's your outlook on the market for the next couple of years, and what are you guys doing to prepare for such prediction?
So I'll go first. A couple of years is a long time. I'm probably going to talk on a smaller time scale, but so for the next 6 months, the next year, what do I think is going to happen? I think that we had a very hot fall still, so I think a lot of demand got consumed early in the fall. And so I think that we could be coming into a winter that's particularly slow. So I think there could be a lot of opportunities to negotiate. I don't think you're going to necessarily see a lot of price softening as far as list price are concerned, but I think there's going to become an opportunity to negotiate those list price down. And I'm just talking London, Ontario, and I'm just talking my own personal experience. But those are my initial thoughts. And then again, I think that if we do have that kind of depressed winter and sales are just really soft and slow because a lot of things happen, because we had like a weather orient, like an actual hot fall where people were just able to go out to a lot more open houses and just see a lot more properties and able to close on properties. I think that this spring we could come into another hot spring, barring any large macroeconomic events that change the outlook of Canada's trajectory. I think that we could see another very warm or hot spring and summer like we saw last year. And you know, frequently we kind of joke or say that we're 3 months to a year behind kind of what's going on in Toronto. And in the last few weeks, if you've been paying attention, there's started to become a lot more headlines in Toronto newspapers talking about how the market's heating up in Toronto again. So it seems plausible that that could trickle down the 401 corridor like we've seen it do in the past. So that's my personal opinion. As far as like what 2, 3, 5 years look like, you know, my super long term would say that in 2025, if we got rapid rail, that's going to look really awesome here in London, but that's still pretty far away. So what do you think?
Well, for me, I think London finally has some appreciation that hasn't seen for so long. And the old London locals, they're saying, look at this bubble. So they're kind of looking at it that way, but I see it, and I still see tremendous value in the real estate I'm buying. I think people will still be buying real estate at the slightly higher the interest rates. I don't think that's going to slow things down too much. So I think London's appreciation is going to ratchet to where it is, and then over the next 3 years, at least appreciate kind of that average 3 to 5%. At least I don't see a
just
big
like
downturn.
A steady little train.
Yeah.
If it did shoot up and then it comes down to this level, well, then that's the new.
Yeah, I think it will kind of keep going up for a little bit, but yeah, I'm not too concerned about things.
And I think the other markets too, like Windsor's all the way to Toronto, like they might go a bit more crazier than London, at least, like because Windsor, who knows what can happen there, one street over, right? But for the most part, they're just playing up higher than lower, right?
So yeah, anyways, I think that's probably a great spot to wrap things up. So really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. If you haven't done so already, smash that like button. It really does make my day. And yeah, every Friday, 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, we're going live. That may change next Friday because we're going to be in LA, so timing to be determined.
Get out of work early.
We will be going live with Graham Stephan, so you guys are not going to want to miss that. Otherwise, if you want more Graham Stephan in your life, the On Fire podcast, episode 2 just dropped today, and so we actually interviewed Graham, talked to him about becoming a millionaire at age 26, as well as how he became a real estate agent at 18 right out of high school. And otherwise, huge shout out to Paul for joining us on the Casual to Go show.
Jeff.
And thanks to the agency for letting us set up camp in their new office in downtown London. Anything else you want to add, Jeff?
Yeah, any meetings or anything, set it up. You can swing by here.
Come on, pop in.
Yeah, check out the new space. It's amazing. Jeff gave you a quick tour, but why not come down in person and see it in real life? All right. Well, Until next time, remember, making money's a team sport. There's more than enough money out there for us to all make it, but if you're not saving it, guys, I mean, like, what's the point? Thanks. Bye!
Right?